Big time fight coming up in our main event this weekend at welterweight for all of the marbles. Gilbert Burns took on Khamzat Chimaev, and they both got win and show bonuses, and it was an amazing fight. So hopefully we can see this one deliver in a rematch of their fight on the prelims at UFC 205, sandwiched between a Jim Miller win and then Tim Boach. But yeah, that really did happen. We have Vicente Luque taking on Belal Muhammad. And when we go back and we watch that fight that they did have the first time, I mean, a powerful left hand that sends Belal Muhammad to the canvas. And he looked like he was out at that point. And then Vicente Luque goes in for the kill. And Big John McCarthy finally eventually decides, okay, he's had enough. Now, since then, the career arc for both these guys has been kind of strange. Because for Luque, kind of like one of those uncrowned champs. He was really getting some big quality wins over some guys that were on the periphery of the rankings. But really, if you do look at it, in the last 4 fights for Vicente Luque, Nico Price, he had to put a hurt on him again. Randy Brown, he really had to put a hurt on him.
And they seem to be friends too, which is awful that they had to fight each other twice.
The Tyron Woodley fight where it's knock him out, drag him out, and then Luque submits him, and that was a year ago. And then he goes out there against Michael Chiesa in a fight where most people thought, well, Chiesa's a good grappler, and Chiesa's a good wrestler to get into his grappling. And Vicente Luque goes to Kembe Mutombo, no. So that didn't happen in that one, and Luque gets a big submission win. But for Belal Muhammad, I know the outlier is the fight against Leon Edwards. He was getting torched, but when you rake with the eyes, I mean, sometimes fights end. But some of the wins, Lyman Good, he looked really good in that fight. I know Lyman Good had some extenuating circumstance in that one, but regardless, he beats Diego Lima, where we go, Belal Muhammad, he's a striker? What? Huh? Then he goes out there and he beats Damian Maia, and he looks great in that fight, and he looked really, really good against Wonderboy Thompson. His last time out, that was a fight 3 months and a week ago. Belal Muhammad peaking at 33, and I love to see it.
Belal Muhammad's in a really interesting part in his career, because I can be completely honest, I kind of written him off until his last fight. To me, he was like Marcus Smart going into this season for the Celtics. I thought I knew everything about him. I didn't think he could show me anything I hadn't already seen. You're good at defense, you can play make, you also take a lot of bad threes.
You brick threes.
But for Belal Muhammad, he looked like an absolute world beater his last time out against Wonderboy Thompson. And I'm about to say something that might give me a little bit of hate, but I don't think this is something a lot of people can argue with if they're being honest with themselves. The Belal Muhammad that beat Wonderboy Thompson can beat any version of Vicente Luque we've seen up until this point. That's how good Belal Muhammad was on that given night. That's one of those fights that I really do think we're going to look back at the end of Belal Muhammad's career, and whether he ever fights for a title or whether he'll just kind of remain one of these guys, you know, just a good fighter in the top 10, we're going to look back at that and be like, wow, for that one night, Belal Muhammad genuinely could have beat anybody, because Wonderboy, he beat the brakes off of Vicente Luque, let's all be very honest. That was a fun fight, competitive fight, especially early, but once Wonderboy was starting to get rolling, he was able to really tee off on Luque. The difference against Muhammad was he didn't have any success in that fight. Not even a minute of that 25-minute fight could really be scored for Wonderboy Thompson. 15, thank you. For that fight could be scored for Wonderboy, and that's why I've just really been impressed with Belal Muhammad, especially after that fight. But here's the weird thing, and I guess this is where I'll hand it off to you. He looks great against the pure striker Wonderboy. But if we go back not that far, or not that long ago, Leon Edwards, another pure striker, he didn't look good against him whatsoever. So am I looking too much into the Wonderboy fight? Do you think we are going to see sort of like a market adjustment now, and we'll kind of see a Belal Muhammad in between those two fights?
And I mean, it's even an adjustment with Wonderboy too, because you got to focus in on the fact that against Gilbert Burns, somebody finally cracked the code. Somebody was able to get some of those takedowns. Then Belal Muhammad took that, turned it up, cranked the dial up, and threw it out, because he was able to do the same thing in that fight. So for Belal Muhammad, I'm in 100% agreement. I absolutely love that performance. Going back, watching it, he looked amazing against Wonderboy. Has he slowed down a step? We don't really know. But against two guys that want to wrestle and wrestle hard, Wonderboy wasn't able to get it done. So for Belal Muhammad against Vicente Luque, could he out-wrestle him? Sure. Vicente Luque, probably a little bit better with the jiu-jitsu than we do have at a Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad, a guy Rufus Sport adjacent, I'm making up words in the basement, but when it comes to Belal Muhammad, Valley Flow striking system is really where we see him out of. We know he's out of that Chicago area by way of Wisconsin and back and forth, out of those gyms, but for Muhammad, we have seen some improvements in his striking. I bring up that Diego Lima fight. You might laugh me off the face of the earth for that, but we did see Belal Muhammad looking pretty good with his striking. I don't expect that against Vicente Luque. Let's not get that twisted, though, because Vicente Luque, it's a Joe Rogan talking point. He's so good at both stances. But it really is true. With Luque, odd angles too at some of those strikes, and that's what makes him so darn special.
And I'm glad you bring up the odd angles. It's not just the odd angles though, because he is a traditional fighter. It's just he's almost traditional in an odd way. He throws overhands from both sides, but he can throw an overhand left from an orthodox position. That's not something we often see. Normally that fighter would switch into their southpaw and then use the back arm as the power shot. Luque's really good at making either hand, even the lead hand, the power shot. If you go back to the second fight with Niko Price, and that was a back and forth fight, the left hook that he dropped Niko Price with at the end of that, where he loops in and goes over the top, is a picture perfect technique. Like, unless you do have the distance management of a fighter like Wonderboy Thompson, that technique's gonna land, and when it does land, it lands pretty hard. And the thing I will say about Luque that I really like, he struggled against Wonderboy, who is in range and out of range a lot. If you stand in the pocket with Vicente Luque, I'm here to tell you right now, you're leaving and you're getting finished in the fight. Like, that's where he does thrive. If you stand in the pocket with Luque, he can make really smart, small decisions in the pocket to where he might only move his head a couple centimeters one way or the other, but they're just enough to avoid the brunt of your strike, and then it allows him to be in a very set position for him to land with his own power. And then, of course, we gotta bring up, if this fight does go to the mat, this is the weird thing. I'm old enough to remember Vicente Luque getting out-wrestled by Leon Edwards. That's the thing that happened. Leon Edwards is a very, very good fighter, but it did happen. That's how he was able to beat Luque.
Did the same thing to Gunnar Nelson. It was like, what? Huh?
Exactly. And I do think that there is a world out there where Belal Muhammad's wrestling is dominant enough to where he can take down Luque, make him work a lot, especially early on in those rounds, to where, let's say Muhammad wins the first 3 rounds, and then Luque has to sort of come from behind in those last 2. And this is the last thing I'll say. I don't think Muhammad can finish Vicente Luque. I know the other is true, though. Belal Muhammad's not really a big finisher. I know he has a couple finish wins here and there. The Takashi Sato performance is a very, very nice one that he wins by rear naked choke. But Luque is one of the most durable fighters in UFC history, to where, like, I've seen him eat, like, fight-ending shots in a lot of his fights, and he just kind of reacts to it, brushes it off, and keeps on walking forward, whereas Belal Muhammad has been hurt and rocked multiple times throughout his UFC career.
Leon Edwards out-wrestles Vicente Luque. Mike Graves out-wrestles Vicente Luque on the Ultimate Fighter season finale. And then Wonderboy goes out there and outstrikes and drops Vicente Luque, which isn't something that we see every single day. But if you look at it, like, let's just throw performances out of the window, because you know these guys have incredibly winning records in the UFC. A fight of the night for Belal Muhammad in his UFC debut in 2016 against Alan Jouban. A performance bonus when he gets that win over Takashi Sato by rear naked. This is the line for Vicente Luque. Performance bonus over Haider Hassan.
Anaconda choke, so not something we see a lot.
Performance bonus when he knocks out Hector Urbina. I get it. This is Haider Hassan and Hector Urbina, but still. A fight of the night knockout over Brian Barberena. Finishes him by a knee. A split decision win fight of the night over Mike Perry.
Mike Perry looked unrecognizable at the end of that fight after a flying knee that Luque landed.
Yeah, that was like Puggle. Mike Perry at the end of that one. Fight of the night against Wonderboy that he loses. Performance bonus over Randy Brown. Tyron Woodley. Fight of the night, even though it's a first round finish win. And then you obviously had, as I sound like a British guy, a performance bonus win over Michael Chiesa. In a fight that, again, I reference this all the time, but Kenny the Jet Smith, like, it's over. And it was so darn quick, too, the way that he was able to get that one done. It was crazy, that Darce.
But again, I keep on, like, how did that get set up? Chiesa secured the takedown. That's the one thing in the back of my mind I keep on worrying about, and why I'm not all that confident with Vicente Luque. I think he's the much better striker on the feet, to the point where I genuinely don't believe Belal Muhammad's going to have a lot of success on the feet until Luque loses a little bit of pop on his shots later on in this fight. Because we haven't seen Luque later on in a 5-round atmosphere. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, kind of like I gave Paulo Costa until we saw him against Marvin Vettori. I think Vicente Luque has pretty good cardio. You know why? I've seen him throw hundreds of strikes in a 15-minute fight, and he doesn't look any less of himself in the last couple minutes to where he does in the first. Like, I do think Luque, he hasn't proven it to me yet, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt right now. I do think he has pretty good cardio, but I do think that early on in this fight, Muhammad's going to have a lot of trouble on the feet with someone like Vicente Luque, who can play the power game, can play the volume game, and is just so darn technical.
Rematches usually favoring the person that won the first iteration for Vicente Luque. Comes in, opens a -210. He's a -170 right now. Belal Muhammad open a +180. He's a +140. We have a look at the votes on Tapology. Surprised us there, to you. Let's see where they're at. I'm going to say over under 67.5% in the rematch for the guy who won the first iteration.
I was going to say 80% Luque, so.
Yeah, it's 655 total votes, 83% Luque, 12% by decision, 16% And then a
That's a lot by
67%
finish.
by knockout. For the 17% that have Muhammad, 80% by decision. I think Vicente goes out there, and I think he gets another finish win against Belal Muhammad. I don't normally put myself out there like that. I do think Vicente Luque is going to keep it rolling, and he's going to set himself up for a fight against Khamzat Chimaev, because I assume Leon Edwards gets that fight against Usman, though nothing's out there, no press releases out
Luque
there.
versus Chimaev, after what we just saw over the weekend, might turn into the greatest fight
Gilbert
of all
Burns
time.
goes, hey buddy, I'll help you out for that
yeah.
one for sure.
Super boys. I think Luque is going to win this. I agree. I really do think he is that top 5 kind of talent. He even had a decent performance against Wonderboy. I know I brought that up a lot, but I don't think he looked terrible, especially early on in that fight. It's just Wonderboy looked phenomenal on that night and was able to get to him later on, but Wonderboy ate some shots, especially early on in that fight, that you don't really expect him to eat at this stage of his career. So I think it's one of those cases where, hey, it's a two-man sport, and Wonderboy Thompson looked really good that night. I do think Luque will be able to win this one, probably by finish, because with Vicente Luque, it's sort of like Bradley Beal scored a lot of points on a team no one cares about. Like, all these finishes will eventually get you some respect in the UFC. So let's say he is able to go out there and get another finish win over Belal Muhammad in a main event slot. You would assume, and I think the Chimaev name is a good one to bring up, that his next opponent has got to be a big name.
You got to do it. The timelines match up. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's like Beal against the Orlando Magic. I can't wait for it. Big time fights coming up this weekend. We have question mark kicks 2 hours before the prelims, the final picks, the final predictions. Maybe somebody goes, hey, I don't want Kay Hansen on my line anymore. Let's go with Piero Rodriguez. And the switch actually works out. We'll see what happens there. But a big time card nonetheless. A lot of prospects to get excited about. The 4 debuts. Caio Baralho taking on Gaji Omargadzhiev. You also have Martin Buday making that walk. And Trey Ogden in a clash of the similar style. He's taking on Jordan, the man, the myth, the Leavitt. It should be a big time fight that I know people are excited about. Comment down below with who you like on this card. Toss a like and a subscription. It certainly is appreciated. I see that sub counter going up every single week. It's been a lot of fun.
Let us know, too, because we started the conversation. Who do you guys think the winner will be matched up with?
Yeah.
'Cause we were talking earlier. Remember when the heavyweight division had like 5 main events in a 2-month stretch? Welterweight right now is heating up quite a bit. There's a lot of people in the top 10 being matched up or have just fought. So let us know who you guys want to see the winner and the loser get matched up with next.
Should be a big time card. UFC Vegas 51. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.